Hello and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice. I am so excited to have today's guest with me here today. Alan Wade is a fantastic human being above all, but he's also an international best-selling author. He is an NLP master practitioner. He's a hypnotherapy MER, mental emotional release. We're going to find out more about that later. Expert. He is the founder of the Magic Within series. Alan Wade helps people release emotional pain due to their past traumas. And as such, he heals people on a daily basis. Alan Wade is a fantastic human being with superpowers that impact the world in a positive way. And I am super honored to have him on Dela's Voice today. So please help me welcome Alan Wade on the show. You're on, Alan. Hi.
Hello, thank you for having me, Dela. I am honored.
I'm so happy that you could make it today, Alan. We've spoken before, and I feel like I already know you, which is good because then this makes it easier. But thank you for being here, Alan Wade. You have a wonderful story to tell, which is inspiring. To me, an inspiring story is all about the resilience and the recovery and the hope and the love and the support, despite a past that maybe was conducive to more pain that a person can endure. But your story is very inspiring. So I want to thank you, first of all, for agreeing to share your story on Dela's Voice. And so I want to invite everybody to please just stop whatever it is you're doing and listen to this amazing story and share this podcast with people you love, because I promise you, you're going to feel such warmth and love in your heart by the time this show is over. So I'm going to go on my Facebook page, Alan, and make sure that we're live, and I've tagged you. So if you want to share that on your end, please do that. We're just going to take 1 minute so we don't have to bother with this afterwards. It takes a little bit of time for Facebook. There's possibly a little delay. So just want to make sure that we're on. Which is something showing in your end?
Not yet.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, well, it may just take a little bit longer than usual. Let's see, we've got someone watching on YouTube already. So we're live on YouTube. But just want to make sure we're live on Facebook. Well, we'll just keep going, Alan, and we'll check back in a couple of minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
It says that oh, hang on. Let's see. Go live. There we go.
Try again.
Seems like StreamYard has lost access to your Facebook. Click here to reconnect. There we go. Okay. Just give me a second, Alan.
Okay.
Please excuse us, everybody. This is the beauty of internet, because here we go. Going live again. Okay, we're live on Facebook as well. Yay! Well, you guys just missed a perfect introduction to Alan's story. So I will introduce Alan again because without that introduction, this show is not going to happen. So I want to welcome everybody on Dela's Voice. Today with me, I have Alan Wade. Alan Wade is an NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming Master Practitioner. He's a hypnotherapy MER expert. That's mental, emotional release for those who don't know. And just a second. Got technical difficulty, Alan.
Oh, it happens.
Just want to make sure it's like, okay, here we go. And Alan is the founder of the Magic Within series. And he's actually an international best-selling author. And today we have Alan here because we're going to speak to Alan about his story and how he lived through a traumatic experience as a child, and he came out glorious, peaceful, and totally passionate about his life and at the other end, and started helping people heal from their past traumas. And so again, thank you, Alan, for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me, Alan?
Thank you, Dela, for having me. I am totally honored. Yes? Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Alan, now that we're all settled, let's start talking about what life was for you growing up.
Life was, it was a challenge, if I had to use a nice word for it. At 16, I was in a very dark place. I was dealing with fear, trauma. It was so bad that at one point in time, I put a gun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger because I couldn't get the memory of being raped at 10 years old when I went into a church out of my head, and I couldn't deal with all of the flashbacks, the triggers, the terror, the fear. It was an absolute nightmare, and when the gun didn't work, all of that hurt and sadness turned to anger and violence, and I turned to drugs and alcohol to try to cope with it, but that didn't help or work. So I spent 17 years of living in absolute darkness, and it was by 27 I did start to change my life, but it took a while, and it was a journey.
Alan, at 10 years old, how do you think about an adult who used your naivete and betrayed you like that? What did you feel then? How does a 10-year-old feel when they can't trust adults anymore?
Well, I can tell you that man told me I deserved to be punished because I was in that church, and that if I told anybody, I would get punished again. So that at 10 years old, I lived in absolute terror, because when I ran home and I got home, I was, full of tears, and my mom asked me what happened, and I just looked at her and I said, well, I fell down and hurt myself, and that was it. I never told anybody that. So for me, fear and terror is about the best description I could give you, would be I lived in that for 6 years, and I was always worried about being found out, that I got into trouble because I didn't want my parents being mad at me and then punishing me again, because that punishment I went through was excruciating. It was terrible. I did, at 10 years old, I didn't even know what was going on. I was given a slap in the head, a little bit dazed, dragged off to a room, and when he threw me off the steps and said again that, you're bad, deserve to be punished, and if I told anyone about it, I'd get punished again. My feet hit the ground. I ran for dear life, like petrified. And those feelings right up to 16 were a constant daily. It's like a broken record. I know a lot of people are not going to know what records are anymore, but it always played. It just kept it. But it just kept skipping. It just kept playing. It kept playing that same song, and it just got to the point where I remember that one day I was in tears and I just couldn't take it anymore, and I walked way out into the bush and I put the gun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger. I wanted it to stop. That's all I wanted, was it all to stop. And then it got replaced with a terrible burning anger. Like, you know what? I can say it, I wasn't a very nice person. I did bad things. I didn't care about anyone. I didn't care about myself. And so 10 years old, it was impossible to deal with all of those emotions of fear and terror. And then, you got this one where you're lying to your parents, because when you wake up at 10 years old screaming in the bed in the middle of the night because of a night terror, and you're drenched, soaking wet, well, I quickly learned that when that happens, don't scream, because your mom or your dad's going to come in and they're going to start asking questions and more. So I learned to go get 2 towels and just put a towel down on the bottom, towel down on top, and try to go to bed. Try to sleep through it. And yeah, it was a nightmare. Yeah.
So you're 16 and you take this gun and you try to end your own life because you can't take it anymore. You can't take it anymore. And it doesn't work.
No.
So what did you tell yourself when the gun didn't work? What did you tell yourself?
I remember I did it twice. I tried it the second time and it still didn't work. And I remember taking an absolute, went into rage. I just started smashing things in the bush, breaking whatever I could, right to the point where I was exhausted and lying down on the ground, bawling my eyes out. And then something just clicked, and this thought went through my head that, look at you, you can't even do that, right? What, right? And I got up, and that's when the anger just replaced all of that sadness, that fear, that terror, the hurt, the pain. And you know what, it was like I walked through a door and on the other side I was somebody totally different.
So you have these thoughts of suicide and you can't succeed at that, and you're telling yourself, look at me, I can't even do this right. And then you become angry. So those emotions now have changed into rage and anger. And then what?
It just became a spiraling mess. Like I didn't do drugs or alcohol till like the end of grade 12, and I blamed everyone else. I blamed the world. I hurt people on purpose because I deserved to hurt people. I would, yeah, it was terrible. Really, the terrifying first 6 years was easier to deal with than the 12 years of the anger, because I couldn't keep relationships. You know what? I remember doing bad things on a whim, and then, you know, a day later you'd be hit with this guilt, and I knew I was doing things wrong, but there was always this well, they shouldn't have pissed me off, or they shouldn't have done that, or I blamed everyone else for my life. Like, you know, look what the world did to me, look what I'm going to do to the world. And that was really hard for me to deal with. I had a hard time. The anger kept me safe from anyone trying to mess with me, because I was big, I was strong, and I ended up with a reputation not to be messed with. But, you know, it would be years later that I would realize that that anger also kept anyone good away from me, because they were too scared to come close to me.
So you never told anyone, Alan?
No, I didn't. The first time I ever tell somebody, I'm nearly 50 years old, or I am 50 years old, and I'm lecturing. I'm an addictions counselor working in Sudbury at a rehabilitation treatment center, and it accidentally slipped out. I had no plan to ever tell anyone. Like, my parents had died and gone years earlier. I never told any girlfriends. I never told my kids. I never told my brother. And I remember I was lecturing on abuse, and I just turned to the clients, and I said, well, I know what, you know, emotional abuse is, mental abuse is, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. And I remember when it slipped out, I got this flush feeling of panic. Like, I mean, it was almost like being 10 years old again. And I turned to the blackboard, and I was going to make like I was going to write something as I was composing myself. And, you know, I had learned a lot of techniques by this time to control the anger and let go of the past. So I had to use some of them to compose myself, turn back to the clients, and continue with the lecture.
And so you told them, and you told me before that when you told them that, you started hearing from other people their story and how they had been abused, and it just opened up a whole new door for you, where you could, right, where you could actually help people heal. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I went from doing a fair amount of counseling with the men at the center to doing a lot of counseling with the men at the center. It gave them a feeling, and some of them told me it gave them a feeling, well, this guy knows.
Yeah, he knows what it's like. And so did it surprise you at the number of people who have been through something like this?
It actually did, because as an addictions counselor, I had heard the story a fair amount of time, but after I told it, I heard it a lot more than I really actually thought. And really, even today, when, you know, I wrote the story in our first book, The Magic Within: How to Transform Your Life, I started hearing about people saying, thank you for sharing. I know that feeling. It happened to me. And then I wrote it with Robert J. Moore in Awakening: Out of the Darkness into the Light. And I actually went into detail about all the emotional trauma. And a lot more people told me, women told me, and men told me that they knew exactly what I was going through.
Mm-hmm. Robert, when did you start healing?
I started when the day that I went back to that church at 27, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had had enough that day, and I went back to that church to, who knows, to extract revenge, or it wasn't going to be good, whatever I was going to do. I wasn't thinking straight anyways. And when I walked in through that church and I could feel the blood pumping and my hands closing, and I was getting ready to do something ultimately stupid and uncontrollable. And when that gentleman approached me and the lady approached me, I got hit with something I had never actually remembered. Was I never seen the man's face. He grabbed me from behind, slapped me in the head, roughed me up, dragged me over, did what he did, threw me off the stairs, and said everything and did everything. And I never turned around. When my feet hit the ground to run, they were running. All I wanted was to get away from there. And, 17 years later, I'm confronting someone in front of me, and I didn't even have a face to, I couldn't identify anyone. All I had was the voice. And, the voice isn't a perfect way to, and I was deflated. It was like I got punched in the stomach and I was lost. I was totally lost. But I was also totally not freaking out, not taking a fit, not angry anymore. It was like somebody burst my balloon, and I had to come to the realization that I had to do something different or I was going to end up dead or in jail.
Wow. Would you say that was your breakthrough?
That would have been the last of the breakthroughs to start on a different path. There was a few little hints on the way. Like a lot of times we don't see things that are there to help us. We just go right by them because we have tunnel vision. But, years later, I recognized people were trying to say, there's something to do. But yeah, that would have been the main one where I started on a different path and started looking at the world differently and looking at myself differently.
So from the age of 16 all the way to 27, you were behaving with violence. And did your parents ever ask you, what is going on? What's bothering you? Did anyone ever say, what happened to you? Why are you acting this way?
I went to counseling one time and I just said there's nothing wrong, right? And basically that's what it was. And I was out of the house by grade 12 and really didn't have much. But you got to remember too, I was raised in a way where boys, men, don't show weakness. Boys, men, don't ask for help. You got to be macho or people are going to step on you, right? Like these are all of this programming, my beliefs all prevented me from really reaching out to someone or telling someone or trusting someone to ask them for help or tell them I was, going through all of this stuff. So really, yeah, it was a combination of my beliefs growing up and the event that just kept me locked into tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you heard, be a man, don't talk about how you're feeling, but those feelings are there. You can't avoid the feelings. They got to come out somehow.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the right tools and strategies, they show up in rage and violence.
Anger and rage.
Yeah. So when did you start on this journey of learning about NLP and hypnotherapy?
My partner and I, we wrote the book, The Magic Within, The Magic Within, How to Transform Your Life. And as an addictions counselor for years, we were there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something that works better, that's less evasive. And so we started, and that's actually because of her. She started looking up NLP, and we basically started practicing NLP, taking the courses for NLP. And just as an NLP practitioner, the results were amazing. So we were really, really amazed by, well, we could get a lot more people to help with the master practitioner and MER, the timeline therapy, mental emotional release. So we jumped all over that. And yeah, you know what, when you have a tool that really helps people, I want to use it. And that's why we wrote the book. We want to help people. We don't want to watch people suffer like I did. I really, the thing that makes me the saddest sometimes is I see people a lot of times suffering, and I want to jump up and say, you know what, give me 3 hours, I'll help you. But they have to want it, and they have to be ready for it, right?
Yeah. So can you talk on NLP a little bit? What is neuro-linguistic programming exactly?
Neuro-linguistic programming is the ability to talk to the unconscious mind, because that's where everything is. Consciously, we're very logical and we're very fact-oriented, and consciously, you only remember a certain amount of things, because imagine if in a day you have billion bits of information going at you, your brain would explode, your mind would explode, right? But unconsciously, it's all in your unconscious mind, the limiting beliefs. My father told me that you have to work really, really hard for 40 years, retire, and then you retire broke. That was his idea of it. He told me that men don't show weakness, don't ask for help, don't be macho, right? These were all beliefs in my unconscious mind. Like, they're buried in there because you've got them from your parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, siblings, environment, teachers. And really, we live life not even knowing why we can't succeed somewhere, because it's way in the back in our past. It's in our unconscious mind that this program runs. I do not deserve love. So when you're in a relationship and people are getting close, you suddenly get this feeling of, well, I don't deserve love. So you start self-sabotaging. You don't even know why you did this, and relationship's over. Yes. Neuro-linguistic programming deals right with the programming, the unconscious programming. And that's why we love it.
So I'm thinking things like we hear as kids, oh, you'll never amount to anything. You're not smart enough. You're not right. You're not good enough. And all these thoughts we grow up with, and we take it with us. And unless we approach them from a different perspective and try to change them, they'll always be with us. And that makes the big difference between people who are happy and people who aren't, people who succeed in life and who don't. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So how do you do that exactly?
How do we help them get over that?
Yes, no, but how do you help people with that? Do you have a zap thing?
You know what? I would love. Yeah, Harry Potter. Here you go. You're done. Next. Exactly. No, actually, it's the way we do it is actually pretty easy, non-evasive, and it's not as efficient as zapping them would be. But you know what? In a 3-hour session, my partner and I can change limiting beliefs. We can change negative emotions attached to, and the negative emotions, and I usually say negative emotions attached to trauma, but there's negative emotions trapped for relationships, business, health, all from your past. So we release the negative emotion attached to that specific line or event. And then we, with you, install the new belief you want. I deserve love instead of I don't deserve love, or I can succeed instead of you can't succeed. And once we install the new belief, we do the hypnotherapy with you, which is 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and we do a whole range through where we reinforce it with hypnotherapy. And by the time you're ended at the 3-hour time, or if it's longer or if it's less, whatever, some people have said to me, I can't believe I believe that. Like, can you, where? And for us, it's amazing when, how stupid was that? I believe that. I've heard that so many times that, and I say it's not stupid. I just say, you know what? That's what we absorbed at that time.
That's exactly what they are. They limit us. They limit us from becoming the best we can be, from reaching our potential. Right? Yeah. My gosh. Alan, I want to read a comment from Robert J. Moore. He says, shh, don't be so loud. I'm trying to listen to the Magnetic Entrepreneur Summit.
I'm doing both too, Robert.
Yes, me too. So also he says, I love you both. You both rock. Thank you, Robert. I love you too. Yes. And Robert's Summit is fantastic. I was on it the whole day yesterday, even though I had to pop in and out to do other things. It was just so much content. And I can't believe he's like keeping his attention on everything here. That's funny.
Well, he's good. He's good at that too. I had to slip away to do this interview, but I was there yesterday. It was an amazing day. Robert puts on amazing events, and you know what? I'm honored and lucky to have him in my life.
That's awesome. You did a great job presenting your there. So going back now, I want to ask you, what typically, if someone comes to you with a limiting belief, do they know exactly what it is, or they don't have to know? They just say to you, you know what, Alan, I'm stuck. Whether it's in my business or it's in my relationship, or I'm just not happy. Can you help me? Is that something people do, or do they have to know what's limiting them?
For the limiting belief part, we do the first hour with them. We talk with them. It's very, very informal, and we get to know them. And you know what? A lot of times people know something is holding them back, and they may not know exactly what it is. They may know exactly, like, okay, I can't seem to get over my issue with money. They may not know when that issue started, which is not even important to me. That's the great thing about MER. Once we figured out, okay, they got this thought, I don't deserve love, right? So then we know that that's a limiting belief. To get rid of that limiting belief, I don't need to know when they started that belief, because I just bring them back, and the unconscious mind takes them all the way back to that point. We release the limiting belief. We change it with a belief where I deserve to have love, or whatever it is. I deserve to have a business, money. And when they come back to now, the old belief is gone. A lot of times, some of the clients didn't even remember the old belief after we did the process with them.
Oh, that's so good. That's life-changing.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
What's one very common limiting belief, Alan, in your experience?
I'm not worth it.
Mm-hmm. How does it show up in your life?
Well, you know what? I teach a lot about self-care, right? And I tell people, you got to take care of yourself. And people look at me, well, no, I got kids, I've got parents, I've got pets, and they're all more important to me, or my partner is more important to me. And I say to mothers and whoever it is, what happens when you can't take care of yourself, to your children, to your pets, to your parents? So who's the most important person here? It's not me. In my world, it is me. But in your world, it should be you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have all of these things, all of these people relying on you. And if you're not running at 100%, you're not going to be helping them, right? And the self-care, when you tell that to guys, the self-care, their first thought is, well, that's pretty selfish.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? I keep a straight face, and I don't say nothing. I just tell them the exact same thing. I'll hear a guy, well, I got to work, make money for my family, and everything relies on me. And I'll say to them, well, what happens when you can't go to work? And then you can see where they start to put it together, right?
Jennifer is asking, what's a limiting belief is gone? Can it creep back in?
Now, what happens when we release limiting beliefs with clients? We usually recommend that they work with us for a couple months to reinforce limiting beliefs. When you do an MER session with somebody, it's kind of like you go to school, the teacher writes notes on the blackboard. Well, in my day, they used to have blackboards and stuff. And so all of these instructions are on the blackboard. At the end of the day, the teacher erases the blackboard. So now you have an empty blackboard where you can put wherever you want on it. And that's when we actually start doing the coaching with people, is to get them to put things that are going to move them in the direction they want, because everything they've learned in their life has moved them in the direction they don't want. It's easy to go back to that path, right? So when we do coaching with them, we keep them on the same path, and the limiting belief is done, because we give them practice, we give them homework.
Well, sure. It's like a muscle that you have to keep working out, so to strengthen it, right, until it becomes a part of you. I can see how that would take a little bit of time. So you said, and I thought it was really interesting, you said you can actually do this over Zoom.
Yep. We've done 90% of our sessions have been over Zoom.
Amazing.
Yeah. We've done it. Well, it works really good because I can see your body language right now and you can see mine. So we have a good rapport. I have done it over telephone with people, but for me, the comfort part is I would prefer to see you face to face, so that I can see that you're okay and everything's going well.
I love this. We have questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So this one is a little too big to put on the screen, but I can, oh, there it is. What if a person is very resistant to realize that it is something in them that blocks them, like keeps saying it's cause all these things happen to me? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And they like bury down the belief that I'm not worthy, wants to say, no, I am so self-confident. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it sounds like they're asking about a belief that's buried down and they don't realize it. A lot of times when you're trying to move forward, we know, okay, there's something stopping me. There's what is it? Because you know what, on my journey to change, there was days when I did really good, and there was days I did really bad. And I learned that, you know what, oh, it's my thinking that basically was my problem, because I was thinking in a negative way. And you tell people a lot of times, change your thinking, change your life. Well, a lot of people, they preach that, okay, change your thinking, change your life. And a lot of people, like even I was, okay, so change my thinking. I'm positive, I'm positive. But then you get 5,000 negative thoughts in your head, and you don't even recognize or realize you've just ran that over in your head 5 or 6 times, right? So what we teach is how to really pay attention to something, because you think something, then you have a feeling right after you think something, and then you have an action or a behavior, right? So if I ask you right now to think of something, you can think of anything you want, right? But if I say to you, okay, be happy, you can't do it. Be sad, you can't do it. But I say, if I think of something that makes you sad, it makes you sad, right? So what we teach is how to recognize your body, your signs, your mind when it's thinking in a negative way. For me, when I used to get angry, a sign I used to have was my hands would close in a position to fight, in a position to defend. And I recognized that, oh, when my hands close, I'm not thinking the way I want to think. Some people get their shoulders come up. They change. Yeah,
I think I kind of close in, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, I teach body language and rapport, so it's kind of like, oh, there's nothing wrong. Really? Okay, right. You know what I mean? Or yes, I don't want. Yes, I'm going to do that for you, right? Or no, I don't want to do that. These are all body language, and we teach that to people to recognize their own signs of when they're not doing what they want to do. And once you start to recognize, I thought this, I felt that, this action happens, you can change this thought, that feeling changes, the action changes as well.
Wow. So can you give me an example of like an extreme case that came to your attention and you helped out and the result?
We've helped a lot of first responders recently, firemen, police, ambulance attendants, and we've helped a lot of people that were where I was, were on the cusp of, you know what, maybe it's better to end it all now than it is to try to continue. And you know what, when somebody loves their job, but they can't do it for the last 8 years because they've been traumatized by it, and they're on anxiety medication, and they're on antidepressants, and the wife, you know, is contacting us for extra support and stuff like that because she's worried about her partner, right? And we do the session with them, and after the session we keep in contact with them through the coaching and stuff like that, and they look up and say, you know what, I don't want to, I think I'm going to go off my medications. For me, that's a little bit of a red flag, because I, as an addictions counselor, I know what medications do to the body and the mind, right? I tell them all the time, you take that up with your doctor and you follow his direction, and I'm okay with that. But as soon as there's a red flag sign, then you go back to your doctor and you make sure that, you know, you wean off better, or you continue for a little bit longer. And when I have somebody looking up and say to me, oh my God, I'm back at work after 8 years. I don't take antidepressants anymore. I don't take anti-anxiety. I don't get mad for no reason. My relationship with my kids and my wife is, why couldn't I have met you earlier? He looks at me and says, it was time now.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. A lot of times you say, you know, why don't you talk to somebody? Why don't you try and, you know, help, ask for help? And I'll hear this, it's too late now. The damage is done. So you're saying it's never too late.
It's never too late. And there's another thought too, when people they're in that thing and they've been traumatized or they had trauma. I just gotta go through the whole process. It might take years to get through it, or you know what? I have to suffer with this. It's kind of like, why?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
So you're right, because they'll be like, oh, I've lived with this for all my life. I'm okay with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But wow, the freedom one can reach when they're really truly healed.
Yeah. It is. It's amazing what you can really be. You got to remember something too. If you've been a certain way for 20 years, even though it's not really great, you know what to expect, right? And suddenly somebody comes along and takes all of that pain away from you, and now you're free to do whatever you want. Well, that's terrifying, right? That's scary, because you know what? I did it. I blame the whole world for when I was in my violence mode. It was easy to look up and say, well, that guy shouldn't have pissed me off, or you shouldn't have done that, or it's your fault. Blaming the rest of society or the world or whatever the situation is easy, because it, you know, as you do it more and more, it becomes easy. But really accepting the fact that, you know what, yeah, I was raped at 10 years old. No, the last 17 years I did not deal with it well, and everything I did. And accepting that and starting on a different path, and forgiveness was and is always for you. It was for me, right? For you, whoever's doing the forgiveness. It's not that I condoned anything that happened, but the most important person I had to forgive was myself, because I blamed myself. I lived in guilt. I lived in shame. I did all of those bad things, and I had to come to terms that, yeah, it's not the way to do it. It's not the way I wanted to do it. It's not the way I wanted to be, truly wanted to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then being brave enough to be who you want to be.
That's it. That's it. That's ultimately it. It was what it was. Now what?
Well, you know what the funniest thing is? When I wrote the first book and I had to tell, like, I gave my daughter the book and my partner told me, did you tell her what was in the book? And I said, tell her what? And she says, did you tell her what you wrote in the book? I said, well, what did I write? Because I told people how to deal with stress. I told people how to, oh, yes, I remember what I wrote in the book. So I had to tell my kids. It was really, really an emotional thing for me, right? But I remember telling my brother, and old ways of thinking came back. Even for me at the time, came back, because, you know, the situation. And I caught myself thinking, oh, no, that's not who I really want to be. This is who I really want to be, right?
Wow. What are you saying to people today, Alan?
You know what? I think people are amazing, beautiful, and I think a lot of times they don't realize just how special each and every one of you are. Like, you don't. I get frustrated sometimes because I hear people say I don't deserve this, or I can't do that. And you know what? I was there, so I know all of those things, but you are all, every last one of you, amazing in your own ways, beautiful in your own ways. And if I could just share the way I feel about all of you, and you could take that in and realize that, yeah, you can't be cloned. I can clone you, but I can't make you again, because you are so special. Everything that's happened to you has made you who you are, Dela, that a perfect clone will be a perfect genetic clone, but it will not be Dela. No. That's how special you are. And how many are we? 7.5 billion, not million, billion.
That's pretty amazing.
It is, isn't it?
To you, what's the one thing that keeps people from reaching out?
I think a lot of times it's fear.
Fear what?
Fear of change. Fear of, going to a new world, because it's kind of like when I said, when we wiped the blackboard clean, and now you can write the story you want to write now. A lot of times we did not get to write our beginning of our life, or the beginning of our book, if you want to call it a life, but we can do it right now. And the unknown for a lot of people is terrifying. I've learned many things in my years that are quite understandable and disappointing. Why do people stay in unhealthy relationships? Why do people not take care of themselves? Why? And fear is one of the biggest things.
Fear of change.
Fear of change.
Fear of unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lot of times people think, well, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
That's not for me.
Yeah.
Right?
So what do you say to that?
It's for whoever wants it. You can't, for me, it's kind of like this. If you think it's going to work, you're right. If you think it's not going to work, you're right. What you think and believe, you're right. When people come to us, it's because they want something different, and they're willing to do something different to get it.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Because if you believe that it's not for you and it's not going to work for you, your brain's going to do everything it possibly can to prove to you that you were right.
Yeah.
So that you can say at the end, see, I told you.
Yeah. Well, that's self-fulfilling prophecy. Do you want to hear a funny story? I went to somebody a few years ago to have hypnosis done to me, right? 4 or 5 years ago. And he's told me, oh, you can't be hypnotized because I popped out of it or something like that. So I always had this attitude of, well, okay, I can't be hypnotized, right? When I was doing master prac and hypnotherapy, the instructor walked off the stage without any advance notice, walked up to me, grabbed my hand, shook my hand, put his hand on the back of my head. Within 5 seconds, I was out totally, walked me up to the stage, put me between two chairs as flat as a board. They call catatonic or cattle, whatever it is. I had my ankles on one board chair, my shoulders were on another one, and I was as flat as a board, and he woke me up and talked to me right there. So that thought that you can't be hypnotized, everybody can be hypnotized.
So what is hypnosis exactly? What does hypnosis do? What state does it put you in?
It puts you into a very relaxed state where it's kind of like, for people that meditate, they get close to that at all the time. And all it is getting you into a mind, into a position where you'll accept some instructions. If you're not a violent person, I cannot hypnotize you and say, go out and kill everybody, because it's not you, right? You are always in control. Somebody that's being hypnotized is always in control. So if they don't want to go up and act like a chicken on the stage or something like that, they won't do it. When you get these stage hypnosis people and they're doing their show, it's because the people want to be part of the show, that they'll go up and they'll do whatever they told. And even for us, if we're hypnotizing somebody and you try to implant, I don't know what.
An empowering belief is that.
Well, if you're trying to implant a disempowering belief or something, it won't work.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though they're hypnotized, it won't work.
So it's always used for a positive result.
I couldn't even come up with a negative way to hypnotize somebody on the thought. So for me, it's always used in a positive way.
So, Alan, you can hypnotize someone over Zoom?
We have done it, yes.
Wow. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, we do the hypnosis with them. What happens at the end of the session, we do a period of hypnosis with them. We tell them to get into a relaxed, safe place. We have them record the hypnosis. We do the whole process. And then when we're finished, they have the recording of the hypnosis so that they can play it themselves at nighttime if they want to reinforce it every day or daytime or whatever it is. And it's amazing the way we do this. The freedom program, we call it now. It was a mini breakthrough, and it frees. We called it freedom because you're going to get freedom.
That's it. You get freed from all self-limiting beliefs, from everything that's holding you back in life, from the pain of the past, the traumas.
Yeah.
You really release all those negative emotions. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like wiping the slate clean.
And that's why you need some coaching for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever you want coaching, just to make sure you go on a path where you want, right? Because you're open, then you can go anywhere.
Alan, do you help people with mental illnesses? Other than outside your capacity as a mental health worker, do you do any? Can you help someone through NLP and hypnotherapy?
There is some research that shows it can be done. It's not my expertise, but I do know that there is some people that can do it. And I would do research to find out if it's something possible that I could, or I would refer someone to someone that's much more advanced as a master practitioner. And we do know people, and we have no issue with referring people to others because they're better suited for that aspect.
What about people with physical disabilities?
Physical disabilities is in the research that we have, there is a lot of correlation with trapped negative emotions and physical disabilities. So there are some people that have been doing that.
Because I totally believe that a lot of our negative emotions come out in terms of physical symptoms, like that's how they show up.
Yep.
So releasing that negative emotion can release some of the pains a lot of people are feeling, like things like backache and like shoulder ache. And
I have our instructor. He's actually awesome. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he gave us access to knee pain equals this, headaches equal this, and it's all trapped negative emotions in the body. The body traps it, stores it, and it's related to I'm not saying what I have to say, or I didn't do what I wanted to do, or this happened to me, or that happened to me. And if you release the event, suddenly the body's back to normal.
Wow. Yeah. So one of my favorite is Louise Hay, and she has a book out, and she has all these ailments, and she tells you where they come from. I think that's quite fascinating. I'm fascinated with all of this. Maybe one time we'll get you to hypnotize me on Zoom and get rid of some negative emotions.
Excuse me.
And we'll record it. We'll actually have it live so people can see. Well, I have another comment here from Annie. There are clinical and medical hypnotherapists that specialize in different areas of hypnosis. Yes, specialize. Thank you, Annie. Yes. How can people reach you, Alan, please?
They can, our website's just been revamped, and it should be coming back online anytime. And the website is themagicwithinseries.com. They can also reach us at themagicwithinseries@gmail.com. And if they want to reach out to us, Alan Wade at Facebook, Cindy Preston at Facebook. We have a group and a page. The page is The Magic Within Series, and the group is The Magic Within, Triumph Over Trauma.
Thank you. That's awesome. This has been a wonderful talk, Alan. I love talks like this, you know, because we can always relate to stuff that's being said. I just love it. I love empowerment and how you are using your own traumatic experience and you help people. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. I don't know where you see yourself in 5 years from now. I want to ask you that question.
Well, I see myself helping more people, doing larger events, because a lot of the things we can do can actually be done in a group setting and stuff. And you got to remember something. For me, I had MER. I experienced MER myself. I experienced all of our tools and techniques so that I know what it feels like. And this is me now. Like, yeah, that trauma, I speak about it publicly all the time. There's no attachment to any of the pain and the suffering, the anger, and yeah, this is MER for you. Mental emotional release. I see myself doing and helping more people every day.
So you're saying this is something that could be done in large group settings?
This is something that can be done in a different version. Can be done, yes, in a larger setting, because as long as we have enough staff around to keep track of everyone, I'm sure that this could be done. Yeah.
So if someone was interested in doing what you do, Alan, where would they start?
Of going to learn NLP and take the courses.
Yeah.
We did a lot of research on NLP and stuff, and we just started resonating with Dr. Matt James, the Empowerment Partnership. And if you want to learn, that's where I would go right there, because you can go to his events, you can learn stuff, then you do the trainings and you do the practice, and then you do the exams of course, everything's an exam. But he does, like, yeah, you do a lot of hands-on with stuff with him. And you know what, his father was one of the original creators of Branson and all of those people that created it. So yeah, Dr. Matt James.
Thank you. So I see your book behind you. Is that The Magic Within? That's your best-selling book.
That's not one of the best-selling books, but that is our first book, the Magic Within series.
Thank you. And if someone wants to purchase that book, Alan, where can they get it?
They can get that on Amazon. Amazon's got everything, and it's even got our book there as well.
Awesome. Great. Great. Thank you so much, Alan. This has been a fantastic talk, and I would sit here and talk to you for another hour, but time's up. And I know that you want to go back to Robert's summit because he's got an amazing full day of just beautiful speakers, great content going on. So we want to head back to that. And I invite everybody else also to head back to the summit. If they don't have anything else to do, just go on Facebook Live. I'm going to share that that stream as well, so you can watch it for the rest of the day and learn something. Alan, this has been a fantastic conversation. I want to thank you. We started on a little rocky start with the internet and stuff, but it turned out to be one of the best interviews I've ever done. Your story is so powerful, and it just brings so much hope, which is what I want to do, is bring hope to the people. So again, thank you. I'm so grateful to know you, Alan Wade, and you and your partner are doing amazing work, and I want to thank you. Yeah.
I want to thank you, Dela, for having me on today, and you are doing amazing work well, and this was awesome fun. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And for everyone else who joined in today to watch us live, or you're going to watch this later, please take care of yourself. And once again, this is Dela, hoping to spark your soul. Stay safe.